All right, the Ladonia City Council will now come to order at 7 p.m. tonight. Roll call, Russell.
Here.
Debbie. Here. Keisha.
Here.
Kimmy.
Here.
Greg.
Here.
Okay, right, now we'll stand up for the invocation and the pledges.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we're thankful again for this day and for all of our blessings, Lord. We're so thankful, Lord, for all the things that we have, but more importantly, all the things that we can give in your name to those that are in needs. Lord, we ask you to be with this meeting tonight and give our leaders the wisdom to do the things that will be good for the city and good for our country, Lord. We ask you now that you bless us, guide us and direct us, forgive us of our sins. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We now have the citizens' comments. Mr. Hosey,
I'm sorry.
citizens' comments.
Well, just have a couple of things about, I know this is on our agenda tonight, Stevens Street, and the opening that is proposed into the cemetery. I think we should really take that into consideration. The cemetery is a sacred place, and we should maintain the sanctity of the cemetery without having openings into the cemetery that could possibly lead to a thoroughfare and unwanted traffic and unneeded traffic, and that may serve only selfish interests. And I don't think we should allow that to happen. I know for a fact that there's been times that we've had problems in the cemetery. One particular issue, my mother-in-law's grave is right inside as Stevens Street opens into the cemetery on the southern boundary there. Someone ran over the marker, broke the marker loose from the base, drug it about 8 or 10 feet away, and damaged it. And we asked about, what's going on, and they said, well, the reason that we gave it was probably the wind that blew it over. But I said, that doesn't sound right, because the wind doesn't leave tread marks across the grave and across the marker. So that kind of thing is what we have to look out for too. And I'm afraid if openings were allowed on what is Stevens Street, we could get into a thoroughfare situation that we don't really want to have. So that was my only comments. Thank you very much.
I'll give you a map
Thank you, Dave.
and a letter from Francis Fry Harris. And I made copies of this so I could keep it short. And you can have mine when I get finished. Okay. Ladonia Cemetery holds our history, our genealogy, as it evolved through the years, and is on the National Registry of Historic Places. Unfortunately, now our main burial grounds are being threatened by development, which I'm not against. but it is encircling the entire perimeter of all three sections of our cemetery. What once was, when this town was bigger, there were things on the north side of Bonham Street. The fire department, the jail, shops, gas stations through the years, etc. There was a park, Tadlock Park, that connected North Depot and North Commerce Street. And after the park kind of faded away, the high school used it as a football field before they made the football field that is by the school today. I went to the bottom deeds office to look at any plat maps they have, and it's very, I don't know, disheartening, because they just don't have a lot on Ladonia. Some of the pages don't even have years, they just have numbers. But, and some of them are included in there. 1866, it had nothing on North Church Street. Stevens Street was 60 feet from Bonham, and North Depot was 30 feet at that time. Let's see. The first church, which was the Cumberland USA Presbyterian Church, was made just beyond where our gate is. The burials were to the right, where the oldest section and the Presbyterian section is, and to the right on the west side of Church Street was the first church. All denominations shared that church. The bottom was the school and the top was for worship. And that's the only thing that was down there. A good 8 to 10 years later, the IOOF cemetery started, and the lodge sold lots, Woodsmen of the World and Knights of Pythias, etc. And in their deed, it states they need access to their property from the Presbyterian cemetery. Across to the west side, just as you get into our gate, about where our historical marker is, if you go due west toward Depot Street, is where the Eagletons, in that picture there, that was their house, sat, which is now one of the extra lots behind Jason Lee's. And there was no reason for anyone to go beyond those perimeters unless it was for school, worship, or burials. Douglas Hale on the Fanny Cad states that his access is through North Depot Street. I know he wants access through Stevens Street because he says it's a city street. Now, I don't know when anyone had the authority to make that a city street, because the Cemetery Association, through the years, has cared for all those streets in and out of every section of the cemetery. So I asked for partial closing of the streets north of our gates. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more comments? All right, we'll go on to current agenda. Minutes of the October 22 meeting. Is there any discussion on it?
No.
Madam Mayor, I have a question about item under the consent agenda, section 5, item C.
Okay.
I want to ask if there were any vendor payments that were made in October for any non-W-2 employees that were not listed on the payables report for October. If you'd like me to be a little less vague, I'd be happy to do that.
Please do.
In October, Councilman Morris came to the city, or the Chamber of Commerce meeting and announced that we, not sure who we is yet, but had hired 2 individuals to perform lawn maintenance for the city. And one of those individuals is the spouse of a sitting council member, and the other is a friend of yours. So my question is, what process was used to hire these 2 individuals, and were they paid for that work? And if they were paid, how were they paid?
They were, let's see, what you call it,
Contract labor.
contract labor.
1099?
Yes.
Contract labor.
Like we're,
Well,
like we're paying Mr. Hamilton?
Only 1099 if they make above a certain amount.
Okay,
Yeah, but we only paid one. We didn't pay both.
okay,
And they only worked, they quit after, they worked 4 days?
4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours.
I
okay,
think they worked only 4 hours.
okay,
And then that's when we went and hired Paul.
okay. So what was the approval process for hiring those 2 individuals?
Well, the main thing was we were looking for someone that would be willing to do the mowing, because at the time, we needed the wells mowed real bad because they were getting, the grass was getting real high. And the 2 guys did an excellent job over here on well 1. And I think that's the only place that they actually mowed. And then we were needing other jobs done here, which I'm sure you've noticed now, there's a lot of things that's getting done in the city. So, anyway, personally, we didn't see what the conflict of interest was when they were hired, because we was just wanting someone that was willing to come in and work 4 hours a day.
4 hours a day?
Oh, we didn't actually hire them.
Mm-mm.
It was an understanding that they were temporary contract.
Mhm.
Contract labor? Like Mr. Hamilton is contract labor?
He's on a contract.
That's right, that's what I'm saying. So it's your term, contract labor, but Mr. Hamilton's payable shows up on our payable report. Correct?
Yes, it does.
Why were those items not on our payable report?
Because the payables happened before they worked.
When were they authorized?
I'll tell you what day he worked on.
I just want to know when the check was cut.
If you'll give me a second, I'll look it up for you.
And actually, these were 2 retired people that just wanted to do something for the city.
Well, the interesting thing about that was you've had a dozen people who were interested in doing stuff for the city and actually doing that volunteer work.
Who were they?
You remember the week before Frontier Days?
You're talking about the chamber?
I'm talking about Councilman Markheimer, who came out and volunteered that day. I'm talking about Councilman Duckworth, who mowed the grass 4 times between the times our public work department resigned and the day Councilman Morris came to the chamber meeting and said that we should probably ask permission before we volunteered, because you had hired somebody to do lawn maintenance.
Well, we do
I'm sorry,
now.
you said we have hired somebody to do lawn maintenance, which was a surprise to me as a council member.
Well, I guess maybe he's like me, he talks in plural,
Like a royal we?
I guess. No, I talk in plural.
Okay. I think it's important when we represent the city's business that when we say we mean something that we have agreed on as council. Not something that I believe we
So
have agreed on.
what was your problem with them working for us?
My problem is that when you hire your friends and when you hire spouses of council members, there is a conflict of interest. It is an ethical issue.
Why do you keep saying I hired my friend?
Did you pay one of those two individuals?
Only one got paid, it was Debbie's husband.
Okay, so we have paid the spouse of the sitting council member to perform work for the city.
Well, that happened in the past too, with a council member mowing whenever his wife was the secretary. I didn't hear no complaints then.
I wasn't on council at that point, apparently.
No, you weren't.
You understand part of my job is oversight, right? I'm supposed to look at this information on behalf of the city and the citizens of this city to make sure that we're properly accounting for the money that we take from the citizens and use for the benefit of the city, not for the benefit of our friends and spouses.
Well,
It wasn't a friend thing.
I'm just,
It's an outside person. It ain't a friend thing. Just because we talk does not make us all friends.
I'm not
I
trying to,
understand where you're coming from, but it's not a friend thing.
look, I'm not trying to equate any relationship between you and the mayor. I'm simply stating that your spouse was paid by the city.
I get it,
Okay,
but it's not a friend thing. You can leave that off of it.
okay. In one case it was, apparently there was no payment involved.
no, we were only gonna pay one person.
Okay,
We weren't paying two people.
okay. So only one check was cut.
Only one check was cut, to my knowledge.
It
Is that
seems
correct?
like
That's what I thought. Jimmy, did you get a check?
No, ma'am.
I didn't think so. So, is that,
Had you agreed to pay Jimmy for the work that he had done? Or
No.
indicated that you were gonna pay Jimmy for the work that he had done?
no, we made it
Listen,
clear.
where's this going, Mr. Duckworth?
Madam Mayor, point of order. This is not a conversation between me and Jimmy.
Instead of bringing him up in it.
Well, why is my name brought up in it then?
Then why are you bringing up his name then, he says?
Point of order.
He volunteered to
I'm not
help
gonna get no
Donnie
comment.
because Donnie is 70 years old.
He just volunteered to help him. He, like
I
I
understand
said,
you've got plenty of volunteers around here, Madam Mayor.
well, I don't think you're gonna work every day. And when we was gonna hire someone, we want them to work every day,
Understood?
okay?
So that was the plan for Mr. Barkheimer? He was gonna work 4 hours a day, every day?
Well, I think you was here when we discussed hiring someone to do that.
Not a spouse member of the council person.
Okay, is that all you had to say?
I'm still waiting for the answer.
Are you looking for the check?
Out of water. Should have been out of water.
Should be.
Well, we usually do any type of payroll. But
So I'm still confused. Was it a payroll item or was it a 1099?
it's a 1099.
Okay.
Okay, you do understand that whenever y'all approve the budget, you approve for substitutes.
Mhm.
Okay,
I understand that it's a bucket of money to be paid for labor. But how we account for that labor is important, right? Because W-2 employees are treated differently. We withhold taxes from their check, starting with the very first check.
Well, they're,
1099 contractors are responsible for their own
right,
taxes.
and that's
That's what
exactly how
they
they
are.
were.
Okay, and 1099 contractors are listed on our payables report.
I don't do the payables report, so I
You're
don't know.
responsible for the payables report. It doesn't matter who does it.
Your accounts payable, you get at the beginning of the month with your packet.
And that's for what we plan to pay this month, right? Like Mr. Hamilton's check
Not
is on the
necessarily.
payables report. for
Okay,
approval.
time out.
Okay.
I'm out sick and we have a sub in here.
Mhm.
Am I supposed to account for that at the beginning of the month if I don't know I'm gonna be out sick at the end of the month?
No.
Okay,
But
same,
that's-
same scenario,
Mhm.
same scenario. 1099 contract labor for substitutes are the same scenario.
Okay, so we do not list W-2 or 1099.
No. Do you ever see mine on the?
No,
on
but
the-
you're a
exactly.
W-2 employee. Mr. Hamilton is a 1099 contractor,
Correct.
okay,
His shows up,
on the
you
payables
see it,
report.
because we got the bill at the end of the month and we made
Right.
it, we got the bill before this was to be done.
Mhm.
Same thing with Patterson.
Mhm.
This is how y'all have always done it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna.
We haven't always hired spouses of
Okay.
council members. That's the concern that I have.
Call Gary Nichols.
This is not a problem for anybody? Nobody has a problem with this? That's a question, Madam Mayor. Nobody has a problem with this? You don't have a problem with hiring the spouse of a council member?
Not in the situation that they're retired and Jesus was wanting something to do. I'm sorry, I didn't have anything.
It's done on 10/13. Members of this council meeting.
You did it on 10/13.
His check was cut on 10/13.
Would have been the second Monday.
10/13 was Thursday. This is the following.
That's right. That's when I signed the checks.
Yes.
Okay. That's my concern is Russell Duckworth is making motions to approve payables for October, and Russell Duckworth doesn't
For
have.
$54.99 is what you're, this
You
is.
understand that this is not about the money. It is not about the money. It's about the process and the people involved. You might want to have a side conversation with your attorney after the meeting about hiring spouses.
So what is the issue anyway? You're talking about C on consent agenda. So what is the issue on C?
No, I'm talking about on the minutes of the previous meeting.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about a payable report that did not include all the payables for that month. Because we wrote a check to somebody
On
that was
that,
not an employee.
on that report?
Mhm. It's not on that report.
So it was on the following report?
Has not been reported. The only way I knew about it was because you came to the chamber meeting and told us that you'd hired Jim and Donnie.
That's not what I said. I said, that's where you're on.
How did I know it if you didn't say that?
And it is actually, it shows up on the
That is
payroll.
not what I said.
Expenses as
I
such.
said, we hired a person to do the mowing and everything, I said, and someone volunteered with him, is what I said.
Okay.
And I can prove what I said.
Well, you didn't distinguish between the two.
I can
have
prove
another-
I can prove quote for quote what I said.
That's fine. One of them was hired for pay.
Correct.
Okay. All I'm asking is what was that approval process and who got paid?
It wouldn't show up in October because we just got this one.
Correct.
So we wouldn't have done.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please explain what I did wrong?
We wouldn't have done.
I can explain what's going on here, how that's been wrong. This is a consent item agenda. If there are more than 2 or 3 questions about a consent item agenda, it should be removed from the consent agenda and placed later on the agenda, because obviously it's pretty contested.
And Mr. Hamilton, I have in the past asked for items to be removed from the consent agenda and have been accused of trying to do funny stuff.
Okay, that's what happens. When you have that issue, it's no longer a consent. There has to be a discussion about it. Then you need to make sure you articulate exactly what your issue is. Is it because, A, there wasn't a process used to hire or retain these people? Is that it? or is it something to do with nepotism? Because if it's those issues, those should not be discussed, whether or not you're approving the minutes or not. That is a separate agenda item that needs to be brought up under personnel or agenda, or whoever's got the authority to do this. So my opinion is now, you've all kind of strayed from the Open Meetings Act, because there's nobody in that audience, me included, and I read the agenda, that would have any idea that we're going to spend 20 minutes talking about nepotism and authority to hire. You just don't. So it's got to either be moved down to a consent agenda item, or there needs to be a special call meeting, or the issue that you have needs to be put on next month's agenda so we can talk about it. Right now, you better stop. That's what I'm saying. And if there's an issue, then yes, you can talk to me about it. We can discuss it. We can bring it back next time, try to flesh out a policy. But you spend 20 minutes trying to figure out something that's not even on the agenda. Not a good idea.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Hamilton, my real problem with it is that I made a motion and this council voted to approve that payable list, and it was either inaccurate or incomplete.
I think I got what your issue is.
That's the root cause of it.
Okay, hold on. I've got what your issue is, but that's not on this. And you said, hey, there's an issue with that. Once we get 2 or 3 or 4 questions down, it needs to stop. And the chair needs to say, we got to take this off the consent agenda because it's not. You're not going to get to anything else. We'll be here till 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. So that's the process. Whether y'all done it in the past or not, I can't tell you. This is my first rodeo. I mean, no, second rodeo here tonight. So, but that's the process. If there are 2 or 3 or 4 questions and people start getting into discussions, it's your job, Madam Mayor, to say, hold on, this has got to be moved off the consent agenda. And then you got to make sure there's enough notice in the agenda to talk about something. If there isn't, then that council person needs to say, I want that on the next agenda because I'm so concerned about what's going on that I think we need to talk about it. Does that seem kind of right for everybody?
Yes, I have no problem with that, but what you're seeing is what happens at every one of our meetings.
Well, and maybe that's the reason you hired me. I don't know, but, I'm sitting over here just quiet and not dumb and not happy, but saying, this conversation should have ended probably 3 or 4 minutes ago. Not that the issue's not important, the issue should be addressed. You should have a policy about how you do those things when it's picked up and if they're recorded, but you just don't have an agenda item there for it tonight. And I didn't write the Open Meetings Act. I didn't. It makes it really hard to do city business sometimes. It really does. But that's my interpretation of it.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. So is there any other questions about the meeting of October the 11th?
Move to accept the meeting minutes from Monday, October 11th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Brenda, did you say?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, financial report for October 22.
Make a motion to approve the financial report for October 2022.
Any seconds?
I was like,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, accounts payable for November 2022.
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable for November 2022.
Any seconds?
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, information reports, volunteer fire department.
Chief's report, October 2022. Total calls 14, medical calls 10, grass fires 2, accident 0, structure fire 0, mutual aid 0, smoke involvement 0, controlled burn 0, other 2 burn ban violations, volunteer hours in October 25.41, water usage 350 gallons. Ladonia Volunteer Fire Department met 3 times in October, 1 business meeting and 2 nights of training. Signed, Kyle Starks, Chief, Ladonia Volunteer Fire Department.
Thank you. The administration department, feeding fan will be in December the 6th only. The Thanksgiving office will be closed November the 24th through the 25th. Christmas parade will be December the 10th at 6 p.m., followed by the tree lighting. And here's the mayor's status update. Permit inspection resource. We're still working on that. In the police department, we have several places that we are checking out. Public Works Department. I think that if y'all have noticed what our new gentleman has been doing that works here in Public Works, have y'all noticed the work? You think he's doing a good job?
Yes.
Excellent
Yes,
job.
thank you. Okay, now old business.
Madam Mayor, real quick on the police department, are there any actions that we need to take before year end? Are there any reporting or any requirements that are on anybody's task list? Anything that needs to happen as an annual process?
Well, the main thing is, I understand even with the big raise that the police got, that the police departments are having a hard time hiring. So we are just trying, like everybody else, to hire, and we've got a new plan right now that we're going to try to work on and see how that works. But we've got a bunch of bites out, and we put it on T-Cleaves, isn't that how you say that? T-Cleave, and then TML both. Okay, old business, discuss and consider action Taylor Street repair. You ready?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, Doug Janeway, Upper Trinity Regional Water District, we appreciate you inviting us down here today. We did send a letter to you a while back regarding a meeting we had with some of you regarding the Taylor Street project there. So I wanted to, first of all, thank y'all for sitting down with us, going over some of the issues there. It's good to know what those issues are, and when you find out what the issues are, you can kind of work through some stuff and get things done. We are certainly we reviewed that situation, and I think we can help out on that. We have a upcoming project coming up for our pipeline. So we have a 32-mile pipeline leaving the lake to the southwest.
Wait 1 second. Do you need him to turn the
No,
mic?
it's back
Speak
to
into
us
the
and we can't hear him.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know how close you gotta get to this thing.
It's on, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
There you go. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. So Doug Janeway with Upper Trinity Regional Water District. So I was just thanking the mayor and council for, we did have a meeting back in August, I think, to discuss some of these issues. And it's good that we can meet with the council and citizens to figure out solutions to things where we can help out, and I'll try to do that. So we saw that the Taylor Street is an issue for some residents around, for sure. And you can see the dust on the side of the houses. I get it. We all get it. We had a good conversation with, so our executive director, Larry Patterson, met with us and went over, we after that meeting, we went back and thought about what can we do to help. And we're a government agency not just like, but similar to the city, and we can't give things away, of course. And so we have to be able to, in order to make improvements for the public, we have to be able to also receive benefits for that expenditure. And so we identified an upcoming project, which we have, which is the beginning construction on our pipeline going from Ladonia down to Merritt, 32 miles cross country. And part of that is we're going to use a property we have over here in Ladonia that we rent from Ladonia to be kind of part of our staging area for that pipeline. So as we're moving materials around around the site we have, plus the pipeline route itself, we did see there's a need for us to get from Highway 50 over to Highway 64. And there's multiple routes to do that. You can go down behind the rodeo grounds, you can go right through downtown to get over there, or you can probably go up Taylor Street. Those are kind of the three options we see of getting back and forth. And so we are agreeable to working with the county to making some improvements to Taylor Street to make it so that it's and I'll defer to Commissioner Magnus. He's come up with the plan about how to do that. So I'll defer to him about what the best process is for that. But we do have a plan where we could make those improvements, dust-free improvements, and then maintain those throughout our construction process. And then once the project's over, leave it in a good condition, dust-free from, and then turn it back over to you for that part. But we'll maintain it during that time period. So we're going to start construction coming up in late spring, early fall, something like that. Or, I'm sorry, late spring, early summer. We would look to make those improvements before that time, so you can start enjoying the dust-free part of it. The only thing we need to do is, of course, part of our traffic would involve some trucks. And so we need to be able to, Upper Trinity needs to be able to utilize the road for truck deliveries, that sort of thing. Not that it's got to be open to the public for that, but we would have to be able to use our contractors in order to justify the cost to do that. And so that would be the proposal, if the council is willing to do that, to temporarily set aside the no truck traffic, or provide it so that we can have the Upper Trinity's contractors use that road during the construction period, that we would be able to make those improvements. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, or
Will it be from where we
I'll defer to
turn?
the mayor, so I don't know.
No, that's fine, they can answer.
Okay, sure,
questions.
yeah.
Would it be going right across in front of East Side and Harris Street to 64?
You would just.
Because there's dust in front of East Side too.
So the part we would look at improving that I'm aware of would be going just as if Highway 50 went straight down to 64.
That's it,
From
the
east
whole
side.
thing.
Yeah, from the east side down to 64, all the way.
Did you ever go look at the other half of Taylor Street, how little it was at one time? At the meeting, I told you,
Yeah,
that's what the other one looked like at one time.
I've been on several of the roads around Ladonia.
It's just a
very-
one-lane
right,
little road.
Like an alley.
It
right.
was,
Yeah.
It's been beat into what it is now.
yeah.
I am aware that, working with Commissioner Magnus, that there's been some water leaks over there. Of course, he mentioned that needed to be fixed. I think he said you guys were
Well,
working on getting some repairs on that. Is that all fixed now?
Yes,
So we'll have the county commissioner will be in charge of the roads. We'll work with them to make those improvements, and we'll fund those improvements with the county. So Ladonia won't be responsible for that. So we'll take care of that while we're doing the work for our project.
Will there be a contract stating that? Because at this time, I do not believe that Commissioner Magnus plans to run again.
that was going.
Y'all enter into a contract with him, a handshake agreement with him, the next person does not have to honor that.
Yeah,
So
we don't-
is there a contract with Upper Trinity? A signed contract? Will there be something in writing?
So this letter to the council is that we're agreeable to making these things happen if you're agreeable to setting aside the truck traffic for now.
Yes,
Can
but
you
are we going to be able to have, you sign it and we sign it so that we know that whenever all this is done, that the road will be completely redone? Or
You,
The next
if you need something in writing, you're certainly going to prepare something. We do have a letter saying we're going to do this
Yeah, I got your letter.
to you, and it's from our executive director. There's not I'm not aware of a need for a contract, but if we have a statement from our executive director saying we're going to do this thing, this is what we're going to do. It says we're going to work with the county commissioner to do these things. if you feel more comfortable with the contract, certainly we can work up a contract of some sort, but
The lawyer certainly feels more comfortable with it.
So does the city
I
secretary.
think everybody does.
But the main thing is knowing that Magnus isn't gonna run again.
Right, yeah, and so the way that works for him is that we're working with him right now, we don't have all those things ironed out, but we will, and I think the letter says we're gonna work with the commissioner to do that. And we're making that commitment to you, that we're gonna, whether it's him or someone else, we're gonna work with the.
As long as it says precinct 3 commissioner, that would
Yeah.
cover whoever is there. We are
Exactly.
precinct 3.
And can you ensure your trucks are gonna stop at stop signs?
You know, I wish I could, I did hear your
Can you
police chief a
enforce
while
them
back
too?
mention that they've looked at that a number of times, and folks, you know, it's tough, so. Trucks going out through there, I get it.
Is there any more citizen comments?
I'll be glad when that goes through because I'm sick of the dirt and now they're coming down Cole Street instead of going down Taylor Street. And the dust is flying in a whole new road. They'll find any which way to go to save 1 minute, 2 minutes. Done.
Thank you, sir.
You bet, no problem. So the next steps, do you want to discuss some sort of an agreement, or what?
I'm gonna let the council discuss it.
Oh, okay, sure.
All right, thank you.
Yay, thank you.
Does the council have any questions concerning this?
My main concern is there be a contract written, so
Do you want to read this?
From 50 where you normally turn all the way to 64.
it's stating exactly what they're gonna do, you know. Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, do y'all want to have a vote on it?
I think,
It'd probably be more appropriate to wait until.
wait until the contract is done. And
Okay. So you want to table it?
Make a motion, we table, discuss, consider action Taylor Street repair until there is formal documentation available.
Any seconds?
second.
You keep that. Okay, that's me. Sure.
All in favor?
Is there no discussion?
All right, thank you.
We can't move forward unless we
Discuss
agree to
and
close
consider action of the International Residential Code.
There's a question on the last agenda item there, I think there's two parts. One is there an agreement with the opportunity to do the repair? And the second thing was about the no truck signs, so, and that issue doesn't appear to be resolved. And I'm just kind of a messenger here. So I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I was having a discussion with them.
Oh, no, that's fine.
But maybe if that's something the council wants to, because I understand that that's a,
Wait,
That's a
that's
hurdle.
what we gotta get to the, if you're agreeable with that, then we're agreeable with the other, so.
They
That's
don't pay attention to it
Yeah, I
anyway.
think we
That's
just reduce it to
well,
some.
we're not gonna break the law, so we're gonna,
They
you
are.
know, well, we're not going to contract to break the law.
That should be in the contract, that
Right.
will remove the sign until the project's complete or whatever.
Right, I agree.
Not the stop sign.
No.
Mhm.
The no truck sign is what we're talking about.
Yes, ma'am,
They
temporary.
ignore it anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we will get a contract with that, I guess, right?
we just exchange business cards, which in my world would probably yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, is there any discussion on the international residential code?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
There's more than one.
Yeah, we've got the next one, the building code.
No, there's more than one international building code. They usually like to update it about every 2 years or so.
We currently have residential code 2015 and building code 2015 on our books.
Okay, so that's when you've adopted it. And is this an effort to
No,
try
we
to?
adopted them last year.
Right, so you're trying to update to something else, or just discussing it?
Or discuss if we want to change it to something different or do something different.
Oh, okay, okay.
In fact, on the last council meeting, we voted to table until there was a reasonable alternative to the current residential building
Right.
codes. So what's the alternative?
Well, just like you said, there's several out there that can be used, can be adopted, so at this point, we don't have one.
Okay. So I'm moved to table, discuss, consider action, international residential code until there is a reasonable replacement. Move forward.
All in favor?
Need a second?
Oh, excuse me, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Craig?
Aye.
Right, thank you. Okay, discuss and consider action on International Building Code.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to table, discuss, consider action, international building code until suitable replacement is made available.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Discuss and consider action on Mill Street and Richard Street repairs. We had 2 bids, but the second bid that we had, the gentleman called me and his father is in the hospital, not doing well at all, so he said he would send one to me. He apologized because he's supposed to have it to me this weekend, because I told him about today's meeting. And we do have another one with Braze. Is that
Right.
how you say their name, Braze? I don't know if we want to discuss that now or not.
We actually need both of them in hand.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to table this till later?
This is the one we tabled last month for different bids. This is the bus killer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's making the motion?
Hold it. What'd you
The bus
say?
killer.
The bus
Oh,
killer.
bus killer, I thought you said bug. Okay, all right, yeah,
Well,
bus,
that's it.
yeah, that too. Okay, any seconds?
Who made the original motion?
No, but
Make
Make a
a
motion.
Yeah.
Make a motion to table, discuss, consider action, Mill Street and Richard Street repairs.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. New business. Discuss, consider action on Ladonia Cemetery Association.
Stiff's been sitting there so long.
Huh?
I'm Bobby Hill, representing the Ladonia Cemetery Association. I'd like to thank the city council officials and the officers for the time for us to ask to complete our case for the cemetery. So we feel like that the cemetery, has already been said, is a religious, a historic part of the city, which I grew up in here. And we feel like the boundary is a good area where that fence is around the cemetery to buffer whatever development needs to happen. And we're not against that at all. But we just feel like that there needs to be that space around the cemetery where the fence is, inside of that for the cemetery. We feel like the roads have been primarily maintained by the cemetery, and not really, it's not really a street, in our opinion, past that entrance there. So that's what we ask, is the city could lead us forward into whatever we need to do with the city to implement that action. That's basically, I think, what we're wanting, right?
Right. We have all our deeds and stuff if need be.
So anyway, any questions or comments? And I will go forward and we'll do whatever the city asks us to do to, or, make it happen the way the city wants it to happen.
Mayor, I think there are a lot of gray areas in this in this topic, and one that I'm personally involved in because Depot Street North runs up along the backside of that property. And I just learned a couple of months ago from the Mayor Pro Tem that at some point over the last 20 years, this city and Rick Barrett entered into agreement to effectively abandon that road. So the city has not been performing any maintenance on that road. The homeowners have. So for all intents and purposes, Depot Street has been abandoned by the city. We've had to take care of repairs on that road ourselves, so the status of Depot Street is also in question up through there. So
And North Commerce Street is overgrown, although it's still, the footprint is there. But I feel personally that Aloha Village will own eventually everyone. There's only two entities they gotta buy up to own it all, and that's Douglas Hale and Arco. Arco is pending. I'm waiting to see if Aloha Village buys it up. But Douglas Hale, he's just waiting for the right price.
What about Lee?
Huh?
Lee?
he's got 1 acre there on North Depot
He
Street.
has 2 lots behind his.
It goes from Depot to Stevens, though.
Yeah, it's just between those 2 streets.
Yeah, he's got 2 lots there.
Well,
The one that he's living on, one he's selling.
Yes.
I would personally like to see the minutes to the meeting that the city council agreed that that's a private road. And if they could do that, why can't we do North Stevens and North Church from our up is a private road? Because on the Fannin CAD, if you look up Douglas Hale, his connection for access says North Depot Street. So, I mean, it's crazy. It's kind of like having, a survey done in Ladonia, it's like,
Okay,
Anyway,
now, when we go back to this Depot Street, some say it's been abandoned, some say it's been made a private road, but I don't think anything on the CAD has changed
Where's the documentation
for,
for closing it?
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that's what I don't
If
see.
it's not written, it didn't
Never had
happen.
it characterized.
Did you look at the deeds that were around you, the people that owned, when you were looking up there?
look at the deeds for, I just asked them for every plat map they had north of Bonham Street.
And I've
So I
looked at
can
the
see.
deeds on record.
And the ones in my thing, the ones that have a P100, blah, 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 those came from Bonham. So those are what Bonham has. That's all they have to offer.
Okay, so you didn't see, the guy that owns the log house now. Did
The
you?
Coleman's,
Well, and yours should say it also, that it's,
I'd have to go look at it.
Oh.
Yeah, I only learned it because you were telling me that they had an agreement, so.
because I know Jerry Hamlin said that it was a private road.
That doesn't make it a private road.
So why wouldn't the roads to the cemetery
say
be private? We
the
call them
I'm
cemetery is
just
private.
telling you what I read, that's all I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Well, if we need to do anything,
Documentation.
you can let me know, we'll do it to move forward to help the cemetery or help the city, or both.
All right, thank you.
I do have to say that Douglas Hale did have a survey done, and if you go in the cemetery, you can see the old boat ark post directly behind our hog fence, and that is his edge. So, at one time he said, your hog fence is on my property. It isn't. The original posts for the cemetery where we put the hog fence, they're all still there. They're metal posts over in the northeast corner. The signs are all there.
Is there any discussion?
the only thing I see is, Depot Street is supposedly private, and this doesn't show it, the CAD doesn't show it, so, it's still a through street. Until that changes. We've got several of them in town that have not been properly done.
So what is your suggestion?
I mean, I don't know, I'm just saying, if this is not properly done through the county, through the CAD and everything else, then it's not there. I mean, you can't do it that way legally.
I didn't think you could sell land that you didn't have a thoroughfare.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to give them access to
No,
it.
you don't have to.
So how did, you don't
Yeah.
have?
No, you do not have to. No.
I may be wrong, but I
You don't
think the
have
state
to.
of Texas says you
No,
cannot
that's
sell a
your
piece of
property.
property without having access to it.
What, there's some property out there now that's landlocked. Been
And
landlocked forever.
that's what I'm saying, from what
They don't
I,
have to give them,
yeah, what I've been reading is it can't be landlocked anyway.
Well, the CAD still says Douglas Hale has access through North Depot Street.
Right.
Go to the Fannin CAD.
Do y'all want to table this?
Let me give you some, let me give you some
No, we need to
input
do
here,
something.
and that might help your decision making. Just because a contractor draws off a development and says, I'm gonna put Northwest Street, Stevens Street, Depot Street in here, that don't make it a public street. That makes it a plan. And that's the reason the city has to approve a plat. So the first question is, are there plats with any of these things on them that the city said, yes, indeedy, we want those as streets? Because if the city has not accepted a plat, it don't make any difference what somebody drew down there. The second thing is, there is a way to undedicate a public street if it's not used. You can't just come into the city council meeting and say, guess what? We don't like that street right there, so we want you guys to vote to do it. It's not worth the paper it's written on. There's a process you go through. So step number one is to find out if any of these streets you're talking about have been platted and if the city has accepted the plat. That's the first step. Is it then a public domain? Is that a public street? Otherwise, it isn't. If it has become a public street and it's not been paved or used, then the city can abandon that plat, and there's a specific way to do it. So that might help your decision-making process here just a little bit. Because if it's never been platted and approved, they're not public streets. Somebody drew something someplace on a piece of paper and filed it somewhere. Or somebody surveyed it off and said, this is where we want to put a street. But the plat and approval are the first two steps. And then after that, if the city doesn't plan to do it, they've got to abandon that street. And there's a simple process to it. It's not simple, but there's a process.
That's kind of the way the street is beside Dollar General. The council abandoned it, said it was abandoned,
Right.
but it wasn't processed the way it's supposed to be.
Right, no, I know that now.
And Rick Barrett, just because he said something doesn't mean it's true. You understand that? And I understand you don't want a thoroughfare right next to your house either. So whatever happens, maybe you ought to think about recusing your vote.
Oh, well, there's no doubt. You know, that somebody's got land that they own, they should have access to that if it's a city street, right?
Open up North Commerce Street again. It's still sitting there.
This is a Gordian knot. It's very common when we talk about anything that's property oriented, for there to be a pile of questions about, okay, who really owns what, where's the property line? Can you get a surveyor out here to look at it? It is a stinking mess.
It is.
Not uncommon in places that's been around forever, and deeds were all handwritten, and people did handshakes and patted people on the back, said, yeah, just go ahead and dig this up and put a road in here. That's not uncommon. But now there's a method to undo. So maybe that's the first thing you need to decide is, do you want to undo something? And then tell your lawyer to get with this lady over here, and let's figure out if it was ever platted. And
Okay,
then we can do something like that.
I
But
think
that's,
that's a good idea.
I mean, he might be sitting on it waiting for someone to buy up the rest of his property. It might be an investment. He doesn't even live here. From what I heard, someone gave him the QT quite before anyone knew about a lake. Hey, buy some land up here. So, but with him threatening to cut a hole in our hog fence for access to put in a gate before anything's settled infuriates me.
I think that we're going to have to do what the lawyer suggested and us check on the plats, see what's legal, what isn't legal. If it's not legal, we need to undo them, like you suggested.
What are the streets you're interested, Stevens, is that one?
Stevens.
I've talked to
Depot.
Mr. Hill about it the first time I came over here. Stevens, I've seen that one.
Depot.
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 Did you see this?
I'll have to get a picture of that.
North Depot.
There
The
should be
north
one in
is
there.
North Depot.
And right now, are we interested in the things that are actually in the cemetery, or is this like?
The roadway here.
Okay, all right. Somebody
Debbie, I
can
would
do
get
that
him to
after the
do North
meeting.
Church
I'll
too.
get after it.
Probably the right thing to do then would be just to table this and put it on next month's agenda and see how much we can, how much understanding we can get about what's ours to do.
Well, there's several plats, but none of the plats say approved by the city of Ladonia.
Well, there may be an answer right there. Maybe an answer right there.
And there's several different ones, and you'll be able to see them in the copies there.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table the discuss, consider action Ladonia Cemetery Association until the December 2022 meeting.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, discuss and consider action on RVS system upgrade.
We packet last month back. I don't remember what it was. What was the cost on it?
$500 is what we approved. We approved $500 for the cemetery.
Completely different.
No.
No,
Don't
that was
wanna-
the other one.
Here's my package.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it in this?
Yes, it's after the November payables. We would need to have this for multiple computers.
So is there a need to have multiple users? Or can we do one computer with access to that?
It says this allows one computer to be the primary computer and others to be read only.
Yeah. I'm just asking, will that work, or do we need to go into the multiple users?
If Debbie's doing the water, isn't this only for the water? If Debbie's doing the water, I don't think you wouldn't be doing it, right? Would you have need for it?
Yes.
You would?
But if it was on one computer and the other ones can access it,
Right.
I
Really, we only need the multi-access upgrade.
mean,
And that $500 one?
Okay, but if we're looking at changing
Correct.
software, then we don't need to do this.
why? It would work the same way.
We're not looking to
There-
change this
The
software. I don't
software,
think.
yeah, the software is gonna upgrade, the other upgrade is the accounting software.
Yes.
So it's not for replace QuickBooks.
It's
Yes.
replace QuickBooks.
RVS.
QuickBooks and RVS are two separate
Okay.
things.
RBS is for the water bills.
Yeah. It's what we use for all the water accounts, water bills, et cetera.
I don't know, I think we should be getting bored.
Does anybody have any questions?
I mean, I don't see that if there's a reason to use the multi-user upgrade, that's double the price. But if there's a need, then there's a need. If it's not, then
We're heading out.
Do you think there's any?
No,
No? Okay.
when somebody walks in, they have to wait until whoever's at that computer is done to help the next person who might need something on RBS.
at this point.
Correct, as it stands right now.
How often does that happen?
I don't know, honestly.
I mean, does it seem to be a big problem with their queue or?
Big enough. I mean,
There's a lot of people coming in at one time.
not a lot of people, but you have people call in and walk in and,
Is the software at a point where it needs to be updated anyway?
they automatically send an update for the software.
Okay.
I already have that
So
disk.
this is just for a multi-user or
Correct.
whatever?
Yeah,
Okay.
that one has no bearing on the other.
Okay. Any other?
Any other
Discussion?
questions? Well, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to upgrade the RVS to the multi-access upgrade for $500.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You shouldn't just say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, she did. Okay, then, C, discuss and consider action on AT&T phone line upgrade. I understand that we really don't have a choice on this, correct, Dana?
Pretty much FCC's come out and said that they haven't given a definitive date as to when they're gonna make everybody, force everybody, I believe it's 2023, but that date keeps changing, so I hear. But as it stands right now, line one is currently down. AT&T has been out a couple of times to look at it, and they're stating that it's something within the building. So AT&T's solution is for us to just basically go ahead and do the upgrade
That's not gonna fix the building.
to the fiber. They're gonna have to, well, analog in the building, you're upgrading everything to fiber. Yes, it will.
Well, they're not gonna do that part of it though. They're gonna come to the building, but they're not gonna
Okay.
do your internal building. That's separate. I mean, they will, but there's a charge, a very much additional
I don't know,
charge.
this is what they sent us when we told them what was going on, so.
Yeah.
What's the current cost for, or we're paying for these services, phone and internet?
Internet is about 60, phone is it's on your accounts payable,
Yeah.
444, 445. So what is that, about $500? Seventy and 444. So. A little over $500.
515.
Did they suggest that we get the one that is highlighted in the dark?
I think it's just mid-range.
Good, better, best.
Yep.
Well, there's other companies that do this. Do we not wanna check them out before we?
It's set on AT&T.
So say I thought AT&T is all that worked out here.
They'll say.
We don't, we use AT&T at the school.
You don't, what do you use?
We use, Lingo,
Who?
Lingo,
How do you spell that?
LINGO.
For your phone and your internet?
Use it at your house?
I might need to. You know, I'm just saying, there's something else out there other than AT&T. We might wanna check into it. Because the schoolers considering going internet as well with, panic button, you know, so. So, I'm just throwing that out there. And it's less than $7.61 a month. What many phones does we have?
Y'all got a bunch. Okay, any motions?
So do we want to get a competitive
Yeah.
bid? Is that
I
what we're
think we
saying?
should.
Okay. Let's move to table, discuss consider action AT&T phone line upgrade for addition of a competitive bid.
Okay. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Bishop? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next is discuss and consider action on ordinance 2022-1122, utility rate increase. Any discussions? So that, okay.
See that right there?
Okay.
Gas.
What is this?
Yeah, what rates increase?
Yeah.
Water and sewer.
And how long have been the water and sewer been rates? How long ago?
A year ago.
And y'all wanna go up again? On water and sewer?
Why? This stuff is so high.
This is energy cost, because I release any energy.
So this reflects an increase simply to cover our increased costs. Right.
We were talking about, I think it's $1 increase.
Yes. Originally for 1 to 2,000 gallons essentially for water, it was $36.50. You'll see it now says $37.50. Same thing for sewer, it was $25.50, now it's $26.50.
I'm sure try to ask this as simply as I can. Do the residents of the city of Ladonia bear any greater responsibility or risk for the water system than non-residents, or is it shared across?
Theirs is more expensive.
Outside the city limits is actually a hair more.
You'll see it on the,
But the expenses are shared across all
Yes.
consumers, right?
Yes,
Okay,
with the
so-
exception of the sewer.
Okay,
Some outside in the city limits, outside the county, they do not have sewer hookups, they're on septic.
okay. But they don't pay anything then, because they're not getting
Correct.
the entire system?
And there
Okay.
are actually a handful of houses in the city limits that are on septic as well. But no, they do not.
Okay.
Is this to cover the budget deficit?
No, it's actually just to cover, added cost to, for everything. We use Patterson's increased their fees. There's increases across the board.
Yeah, but we don't
Materials.
have two water guys plus their health insurance and everything
I
else.
understand that.
One hand washes the other.
But you still have Patterson.
Yeah, we still have to facilitate the water and the sewer. It all has to be taken care of.
Right.
Whether it be city employees or whether it be Patterson or whoever we use. All this entails the same thing, you still
Is this
got.
gonna cover the garbage too? Or are they gonna nickel and
garbage
dime
is
us?
separate.
We're going up on your garbage, we're going up on your water, we're
Yeah.
going up on your sewer.
Yeah.
The garbage already went up, correct?
I
Yeah,
have not
Yeah.
received the CDI, but yes. it will go
Yeah.
up.
So, yeah.
And then that's a them thing, we have no recourse on that one.
Surprise, surprise, inflation affects everything across
Correct,
the board.
yeah.
do I have any motions?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-1121.
Any seconds?
so the increase will be what?
January,
How much?
$1.
$1.
$1 a month,
$1 on sewer, $1 on water, so $2 a month
$2 a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
for the
Well,
minimum,
Per thousand.
for 2,000.
That's not what it says on here.
0 to 199.99.
And then in the range of 2,000 to 3,500,
Those don't
875
change.
per thousand.
Those don't change. Those rates don't change. The only thing that changes is the base rate of the 37.
So the base rates are what are increasing by $1, not
Yes.
the incremental rates?
Correct.
Okay.
There's never increase in incremental.
So if you use over 2,000 gallons, how much is it per month?
So anything is $8.75 per thousand. Until
That's
you get to the
not-
next range of
Is that what-
3,500.
That's what it is now, too.
That's what it is now?
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
not changing.
That's not changing. The only thing changing is the base rate.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
All approved?
Aye.
Great,
Aye.
thank you. Discuss and consider action on software for City Hall. We are going to have to change from QuickBooks.
You don't have to change.
Well,
You are opting to change.
yes. We wanted to have multi-users for QuickBooks. Right now, there's only one user. And to get multi-users on QuickBook, we're gonna have to pay them an extra $5,000. Yes. And to do that, we're gonna have to get a server. And that's at least 8,000,
I think
right,
that's
Todd?
probably a misconception there. Because multi-user QuickBooks accounting now is cloud-based, or at least there's an option for cloud-based.
There is.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but when we called, this is what we were told, okay? And he assured us that, another reason why we are thinking about changing is there is no quick help on QuickBooks. There's, I guess Dana relies on a lady named Brittany when she has a problem.
Our accountant.
Yeah.
Auditor.
She's the accountant / auditor.
Yeah.
So I would like the council to go in and try to find us some that we can consider. It will have to be fund-based, for it. Now, this is the one that Greg found, and I'll let him tell you about this one.
This one rough cost is $7,200. Basically, it's fund-based as far as cities. They're based in Arkansas. And there's pages in here. Y'all can contact these other cities that are using them. I've talked to several, and they say they're great. They do not have a presentation that they will come out to you. If you want a presentation, you have to go online during business hours. Is about the only drawback that I've seen. But they do have, support, just a phone call away or whatever. Their yearly rate, our annual rate is less than QuickBooks.
It's 7,200.
Right. No, their annual rate.
Oh, okay.
That's an extra.
Okay,
$7,200 to get it installed.
okay.
The installation takes 1 business day, and they prefer to do it on a payroll day, and you will be up and running before they leave. So,
What's the annual rate?
all she could tell me was less than QuickBooks, but if we are really interested in this one, we can get a direct quote,
Yeah, because we're gonna, is that less than QuickBooks with the one user using what we currently have, which is a local access, or is that use the cloud-based or multiple, because that one's more expensive?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is gonna be multi-user, so,
Right.
that's what you gotta do apples for apples for the most part. QuickBooks is definitely not fund-based. So that's also a plus.
Is there any questions?
We're not prepared to make any changes to our accounting system tonight, so I move to table. Discuss, consider action software for City Hall
So
until December 2022 meeting.
would appreciate other council members doing a little bit of legwork and getting out there and seeing what else is available.
But it has to be funded. That's the,
It needs to be fund-based. I mean, if somebody else comes up with something else, hey, present it.
any seconds?
I'll say.
All in favor? Thank you. F, discuss, consider action on corporate water rates.
At this time, I think we don't really have a corporate water rate, is that correct?
Correct.
So Dollar General or whoever else comes in or whatever, their rates are gonna be the same as everybody else's at this point. Dollar General's not gonna be a big water user, but we could get somebody in here that is. We do have master meters and that counts for a lot, but
Any other discussions?
This will become particularly important when we gain the rights to the water from Lake Ralph Hall,
possibly.
because at 1.5 million gallons a day, at the basic residential rate, that's $15,000 of water revenue a day. So if we could find a corporate manufacturing food service-based entity that needs access to large volumes of water, how fast do you want to concrete all the streets in Ladonia?
True.
Because that's a big bond source. What's their water rate?
For residential, so their base rate is the same when you look at residential, and they call it non-residential rates. Base rate's the same. It's when you go into that overage amount. They only go up to 1,000 gallons. Their base rate. For residential, from 1,001 to 5,000, it's essentially 84 cents per unit. Non-residential, anything over 1,000 gallons is $7. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the sewer. $4.12 per thousand for non-residential. So
Significant difference.
significant difference.
And that's where bottom,
That's Plano.
oh, Plano.
Yeah. It was the only one I could find online. So obviously.
Wonder what bottoms is. They've got a 2 or 3 water users.
Talk about a big economic development draw. Find somebody that's paying $4 a gallon for 1,000 gallons of water and offer them 2 out here. That's $30,000 of water revenue a day.
Yeah.
How quick do you want to pave all the streets around here with?
Commerce uses a lot of water with all the residents from the college.
And I bet you they get
We're a
they get a real special rate.
spit throw from the Hunt County line.
Do what?
Hunt County line is
Right.
closer.
Philip Burnett.
Actually, I talked to Hunt County and I need to call the lady because they're interested in buying water from us.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard from here to the line, Hunt County line.
We gotta get it to here first.
You want to talk about this again in December or January?
You want me to make you a mock-up of what it would look like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some rough numbers, even at a penny, a gallon, it's still $15,000 a day.
Okay. Is there, anybody making a motion?
Want to table it?
That's
I
up to
can do
y'all.
that.
That's up to y'all.
I'll make a motion to table to consider action on corporate water rates.
Any seconds?
Until the mayor's discretion. How's that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kimmy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, G, discuss, consider action, water account deposits.
What is the deposit right now?
150.
150? That doesn't even cover 2 months'
Correct.
use at a minimum.
Correct.
So, I mean, that should at least cover a couple of months.
So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, let's charge it now. I mean, 2 months right now is $170 roughly. So, you know, 200. We know it's gonna go up.
Still, Dana or the mayor, help me understand the operational piece of this. So if I put a deposit down for $150 and I get a bill for $100 the first month and I don't pay it, when does my water get cut off?
At the end of the month.
At the end of the second month or at the end of the first month?
End of the first month.
How many days after? So I gave you $150, I got a water bill.
The way our policy, I know where you're going, the way our policy states currently is somebody moves in, they're new, $150 deposit. They run their first month's worth of water. They don't pay that bill, we turn it off. The way it's currently reads, even if that water's off, they still get billed for a second month, even if they didn't use a drop of water at the base rate. Then after that, then that's when you finalize the account, and that's where this comes into play.
Okay, that's where we wind up upside down. is
Correct.
On the additional
Yes.
base. Okay.
Any other discussions? Any motions?
How often is this a problem that we wind up upside down?
More often than you realize. Especially in rental properties. This was something that was kind of floated, because it was advised to me from somebody who had actually moved here from Bonham. Renters, their deposit is actually double that of somebody who owns a property. So if you purchase a property in town and you bring the proof that here we own this, your deposit, I don't know what it is in Bonham off the top of my head. They told me, we'll just say it, in Bonham it's $150 deposit. If you own it, it's $300 if you're a renter.
And what percentage of the time are we having problems with renters then?
More often than you would
9 out of
realize.
10 times?
Yeah, probably. Especially since we don't send anything to collections out here. They never have.
Is there a motion? Do you want to table this one?
I think the issues we got right now, I think it needs to be settled.
I agree.
I make a motion to reset it at $200.
Okay. Greg's made a motion to reset it at $200. Do I have a second? Debbie, do you want a second? Deisha. Kenny.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay,
Is that
A,
everybody?
yes.
I
Oh,
said, I
you didn't say
think I heard-
nothing?
Oh, you did?
Did you? Did you, I? Okay, can you do a round table, please?
Aye.
Um,
Aye.
Okay.
All right,
I will, before you do H.
before we do H, we're going to convene in closed session.
What time? 8:36 p.m.
I'll be good.
That lady right there.
No, I left that so everyone,
I'm not making you.
Yeah. you know, everyone needs to look at it and see what's happening around. I put all the people who own the property and stuff.
Is it 10:00? Is it 10:05?
Yeah, I even went to the printer and had it blown up.
I know, it's a great thing.
We're reconvening at 10:06. Okay. On, the Public Works employee, we've decided to hire Paul full-time. And, on the city, with the city. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to hire Paul full-time, starting next pay period.
Next paper. Dana, would that be Friday or Monday?
We get paid this week, so pay period ended. I'll have to look.
So the new pay period would be Monday, right, or Sunday? No?
It should have been, I'll have to look at the deal and see. I can't remember if we're 1 week or 2 weeks in the hole.
What we need to know? No, not necessarily,
No.
just next pay period,
You just-
okay.
Trust me, if it's us, we're 2 weeks in the hole.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And on consultation with the city attorney,
There's no action on that.
no action at all. So, do I have a motion to?
Hang on. Item H.
Item H.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
why we sent y'all back there.
That's why you sent us back there.
I can make this quick. Make a motion to table, discuss, consider action on water bills until the December meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I can send it. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Any seconds?
Second.
You're seconding?
At 10:08.
Okay. At 10:08. Is there, all in favor?
Aye. You got me tickled because I thought you said it.
Greg?
Motion
Okay. Thank you.
If I stay here another 2 hours, I get the homestead this chair.
Okay, then, say aye.